Hey guys, this is the Chic Monster here with a brand new episode of VIVA JUEGO, and today I'm going to be talking about artistic iterations. Um, so this is something that's really important during the developing process of the game. Just once you have the basic gameplay down and all that kind of stuff set, you really want to start thinking about the art style. Now, I went to default a vector art style because that, for me, is the easiest to whip out and to create something that way. So, just for like rapid prototyping and that kind of a stuff, I use vectors. But that doesn't mean that I intend for the final arc of the game to be entirely or exactly vectors. So what I wanted to do was sit down, because as you know, I'm working on the game design document, which I hate writing. But you'll remember we talked about how iterations were so important a few episodes back, and that holds true for the art. So as I'm writing this game design document and ask what kind of art I'm intending to use, right now I'm working on picking out different kind of styles. There's the extremely simplified pixel style, the vector art style, and the relatively complicated vector art style. And these are ordered for, well, they're not really ordered for anything actually, because the middle one, vectors, is the easiest for me to do. Left one is relatively easy for me to do, and the right one would take a long time because I'm not a pixel artist. But I wanted to lay these out for you because these are the only ones that I would be considering. There is also a hand-painted style, which I'm very good at, but that would take way too long to do anything about. So, you've seen the backstory. I'm writing the game design document, and I just want to go into detail about the pros and cons of each really quickly here. Oh shit, the phone's ringing. I'll be right back. So on the far left here, we have the old simplified style, which I thought would probably be a very popular style. Personally, to me, I wanted to go into pixel art because that seems to be like games are sort of trending towards that kind of a style. And you know, if you want something that aesthetically is pleasing today, I mean, like I'm not saying, you know, follow the style just because everybody's doing it, but if you find value in it, go for it. So this extremely simplified style on the left here, some of my favorite games for the Xbox, like indie games, I'm opening up an image here, and this is called Protect Me Night, and it's like my favorite game for the Xbox, like of all time. And this is another really cool Xbox game, Washington's Wig, and that's kind of fun to play with other people. But so these both employ sort of one of the reasons why I like Protect Me Night is because it pretends that it's an old NES type of game. It even does like this thing where you have to blow into a cartridge. I won't get into it, but it does everything to imitate that sort of really old-fashioned style. And I thought that would be kind of cool to implement in this game if we could pull it off somehow. So I started experimenting with a really simplified art style here. Now this vector art style that you know is what I do already, and oh, I forgot to mention the con of this is we already know that the game that this has been inspired by or based off of, even if you want to go that far, is Wild Guns, and that already is an SNES game. So there's a little bit of a problem there. We might run into the issue of people saying, you know, like, oh, this is just like a copycat or something like that, which we really don't want to do. We want a game that stands out on its own. So that's something to consider. But if we were able to pull off something that was far above and beyond what Wild Guns had to offer, for example, we offer more content, we offer different kind of gameplay, and I have so many ideas for, I mean, I've seriously thought about how to make it unique. So that wouldn't really be a problem, but we'd have to make sure that we execute those extra things, you know, like perfectly and fluidly so that you don't run into any kind of problem if I wanted to follow this kind of style. The middle one here, let's move on to the vector art, which you're already familiar with. This would take a little bit longer to do because everything would have to be animated individually, whereas this, I could just change the color in a quick no, that's not right. In Photoshop, if I made a sprite sheet, all I would have to do for the different agents, which is probably going to be what's going to be taking us the longest, more grindy. All I would have to do is change the hue here, and you get all kinds of different variations in the color. Actually, let me move it to this. Hue saturation. Okay, check this out. See how the colors change very easily? So it really wouldn't be that difficult to, and then I can also change saturation here. So you get duller colors, and then lightness there. You get, well, I wouldn't do lightness. You get the saturation going there. So you can just change all of that in almost one click. So that's one of the benefits again of the one on the left. The middle one, I have to animate everything individually, and it is pretty easy to change out colors and things like that for the agents and the art style in general, and it's a little bit easier to create backgrounds and those kinds of things. It's much easier to animate those in that style. So that's one of the pros, and the cons are it really doesn't look, to me personally, at least I don't think that it would look like a clean game. I have a very hard time unifying everything with vectors, whereas with pixels it's much easier to tell that everything comes from the same style, the same place. Whereas vectors, for me at least, because I'm all over the board with my vectors, it's hard to unify everything. I mean, if I worked hard enough at it, I think I could probably pull it off. So it's not that big of a deal. But that's what vectors are. And another pro is, well, we've already kind of gotten started with the style, so we just have to keep going with it. And then this one here is probably the one with the least amount of advantages. Pixel art, when it's really detailed, looks absolutely amazing, but it's a pain in the ass to do. Just like, so hard. I personally am not a pixel artist, so what you're looking at here is my attempt at something, relatively good looking. But I'm like I said, I'm not an artist. I'd have to find somebody else to help me out with these, and then when you start bringing other people in, it's just a nightmare. And I'm pretty much good with the team of people that I have now. So aesthetically, this would be the best looking art style, but it would just be way too long, just too much of a hassle to pull something like this off when you're only really getting a small advantage artistically. So I'm right now debating on continuing on with the vector style or doing something really simplified here in the style of the old SNES games. Just something that would be kind of cool and charming. So I'm gonna be experimenting in the next few weeks with these different styles. I'm gonna have Salty build me a prototype of a move sheet for this in a background, and then I'm gonna have him do one here, and then we're gonna compare those two back to back, and we're gonna see which one we want to go forward with. So that's it for this episode of VIVA JUEGO. Thank you for watching, and I will hope to see you guys soon in the next episode. So don't forget to like and subscribe us and all that YouTube bullshit. I'll see you guys next episode. Why do I always say next week? I do these like daily.